Hello BookTube, my name is Grace, and today I wanted to talk about a book review that I read pretty recently, and it is one that has been anticipated by a certain community for a while, and by a very renowned author. And that book is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Alright, so this book I'm going to have mixed reviews for. There's some things I liked and some things I didn't like. I will be going into spoilers, so if you don't like spoilers, please go read the book and then come back afterwards. I'll still be here. So we're going to just have a chat about some of the things that I thought about while reading. Alright, let's go! Alright, so first thing I'm going to say, I don't think it's an unpopular opinion as such, but it's one that I definitely had while before I even bought this book, to be honest. And this was completely unnecessary. Although the book is long and it does kind of expand the Hunger Games universe as such, it really is unnecessary to me, and the book in general does not redeem Snow for any of the actions that he does in the Hunger Games whatsoever. So to me it seemed kind of like a pointless cash grab or a prequel just for the sake of making a prequel, without expanding the universe whatsoever. So character-wise, I will say Snow is still an unsympathetic character, as much as he is fleshed out in this book more, and we see his childhood and his teen years and growing up and all the things he gets up to in the capital and outside it. I still feel that Snow is unredeemable for the things that he has done, the atrocities he has committed, and the things that he has let happen. Another thing I wanted to mention while reading this book is that it is really, really, really boring until like maybe the last 200 pages, but until then it is the most boring thing ever. It's so boring. It's worse than Mockingjay for me, and I found Mockingjay very slow. This book is really, really, really slow, and it takes a long time to build up to anything, and when it does, it feels kind of weak, and for me, there wasn't any real payoff. Let's give some background into the war before the Hunger Games were established, and this is set when there's been at least 10 Hunger Games prior to this point, so it feels like it was set in the wrong time period for me. I know we want to give Snow like his story and his background and stuff, but it doesn't really give any more insight into the actual war and the goings on in the war, other than the fact that capital children were also involved in the war, which doesn't even make any sense as a prequel would, because you're not supposed to be sympathetic towards capital children. And the fact that there's such a big attitude switch in half a century between when Snow is a kid and then when Snow is the ruler of Panem, and you see how spoiled and snooty the capital children actually are, it is such a different perspective, and it's really odd to me. I wish we would have seen more of Tigress as well. In Mockingjay, she is a minor character and she does help the rebels out. But other than that, we only really see her hanging around the house and helping Snow make his uniforms. Like, she has a goal to be a seamstress, I think, but we never really hear anything else about her life after the events of this book. So I'm curious how she got established in the capital as an important seamstress and such. We didn't get any of that, so I was a bit disappointed. Also, we didn't get anything past his teen years, so we didn't understand how the games amped up the technology factor and that they became more advanced. We didn't get any information about the massive advancement of the capital past the war stage, and the better treatment of the tributes. We didn't get any of that mentioned whatsoever. You can kind of piece it together from Snow's story, but I would have really liked to see it go on step by step and how he implemented all of those things, just as we see them in the Hunger Games. So I was a little disappointed we didn't see any of that and spent so much time on him being a young teen. Political point I want to say in this book is interesting is that a tribute coming from the districts, once they arrive in the capital, they're all kept in this zoo area. And one of the mentors, Arachne, who's a high school student, goes in to talk to them, and she insults this tribute and teases her by waving this sandwich in front of her face and taking it away from her before she can get it. And then the tribute ends up killing this mentor girl. And that was effective in showing the desperate attitude and the brutality on both sides of the spectrum, from the districts and the capital. But for me, it didn't really do much on the capital side, because we already know the tributes are desperate because they're all hungry. they're starving, they're terrified, and they're not being taken care of in the capital. But to see like the capital be so outraged about it just shows kind of like an indoctrination that I thought was interesting. One thing I want to say about one of the main characters is Lucy, and she is Snow's district that he gets assigned to his tribute from District 12. Firstly, I want to say I didn't like that she was from District 12. I thought that was very on the nose and a very obvious callback to the Hunger Games and trying to make it like Snow has a sympathetic reason to like District 12 when, as far as I'm aware, in the later series, the Hunger Games series, he has an open despising for all of the districts, especially the lower ones. So to see him do a 180 later in life seems kind of odd to me. And I didn't like that she was from District 12 because it seems like an obvious thing. Of course, they're going to pair up Snow with the District 12 kid. I would have liked it if she'd come from a lesser known district, but one that she could have made work. But when she's such an obvious underdog like that, and she apparently has some great rapport with the public because she can play guitar and sing, I was a bit disappointed because that seems like another callback to Katniss, because Katniss sang in school. I don't know, it just seemed like, to me, it seemed like a mirror flip of Katniss a little bit, but a less endearing character. And I thought it would have been nicer to see someone from somewhere like District 8 or District 7 or like even District 4, so someone who had the potential to be good at the Hunger Games and to win, but didn't come from such an underdog place. But somewhere like District 8 or District 9 are still like underdogs in the way that they go unrecognized and unmentioned a lot of the time, because they're not super duper duper like dirt poor like District 12, but they're also not super well looked after like District 1 and 2. So I would have liked, personally, I'm not sure if everyone else feels the same, but I would have liked to see another tribute from a middle district do really well and end up winning, just because they had their own tenacity, not because of like an underdog spirit and the capital just voting for them out of pity. There's a friend at his school called Sejanus, and he is from District 2, and his family is very wealthy because father trades weapons or something, I think. So moves his family to the capital to have a better life. However, the capital family seem to despise this kid and hate on him just because he's from a district family, which doesn't make sense to me, because the whole point of the capital is that the districts do all the work and the capital gets all the benefits. So when districts like 1 and 2 are feeding you all the luxury items and all the things that keep you in power, like weapons, why would you suddenly like disregard and treat him like trash? It just doesn't make sense to me as a political standpoint. I don't think this will surprise anyone, but I do want to also mention that Snow is a terrible human being all the time, and he is a really bad friend to Sejanus. He basically dobs him out and incriminates him in a rebel alliance, and a crime that he committed himself suggests that he does it. He also selects one of his friends to be in a group project with him, but he wrote himself, and then leaves his friend to deal with the horrific consequences of a doctor finding out and basically mutating this poor girl. He doesn't even care. He doesn't go visit her in the hospital at all. He doesn't try and get her out. He doesn't say apologize until he's confronted by it, and then he has to apologize. He's just a terrible person all in all, and a bad friend, so I don't think that was surprising at all. A lot of snake references in this book, and a lot of things about snakes. The girl Lucy, the tribute, seems to have a way with snakes or something. But one of the girls, the mentors, does turn into a snake by an action on Snow's part. She ends up getting like scales, and she looks really sick, and she like hisses and stuff. But then she ends up seeming like towards the end of the book that she grows out of it and it doesn't affect her anymore. I was thinking, is that possibly a reference to the mutts that we see in Mockingjay, where that chase after the Katniss and the group through the city and the sewers? The romance in this book between Lucy Gray and Snow is, I'm not going to say his first name because I have trouble pronouncing it, so I'm just going to say Snow. Is pretty flavorless and very boring and predictable. I was really hoping they would just remain good friends and that she would be like a little sister figure like Tigress to him, especially because there's a slight age difference, but it didn't end up happening. They ended up getting together and being a couple for most of this book. I found that disappointing, and the romance itself for me was very flavorless. It didn't really have any spark to it, and none of them have anything in common, so to me it didn't seem like a good match. Okay, so there's another part of the book where Snow goes to District 12 and he's on peacekeeper duty, and he has to help out with a doctor on monitoring these mockingjays in District 12. We already knew that happened, and all of those sections I kind of just skimmed over because it didn't really add anything for me to the history, and everything we learnt from the Mockingjays was from Katniss and from Rue in the first book, so we didn't really need to know any more about the Mockingjays. And like, I don't know why we needed such a obvious throwback. Even in this book there is like a potato mentioned, and they do say, oh, that's Katniss Potato, like they make her name out, and I thought, of course, Collins is going to throw in as many references to the original books as possible to, you know, get that nostalgia going. Snow doesn't really do a character arc. He doesn't really have an arc. He starts off as a poor kid in the capital, and then he ends up being an okay big brother, but he's a bad grandson and a bad friend. He just gets multiple people killed directly and indirectly, and doesn't feel bad for more than maybe 4 hours, and then he feels okay anyway. So he already is morally flimsy, and he basically gets everything handed to him at the end by his dead friend's parents, so they don't know that he caused his death, and then they give him all this money, and every opportunity in the capital gets handed to him, and he doesn't have to do any work for it. So at the start of the book we think he's an underdog, and then we start to kind of root for him, and I was interested to see how he would work his way up from literally the ground up to becoming like the president of Panem, but we never see any of that. I don't know if this is a mystery or not. If someone else knows, please like let me know in the comments or something. But Lucy Gray basically tries to kill Snow and then gives up. I'm not sure why. She sends like one of her snake friends after him to bite him, but it wasn't venomous anyway, and then like she just disappears. She just goes into the forest and is never seen again. What's the deal with that? I read The Hunger Games a long time ago, but if there was something else that I missed there, please let me know. Is there a reason why she didn't come back to kill him, or did she not want to kill him? Her motivation seems sort of flimsy because she'd already won, and she could have just stabbed him if she wanted to kill him. In the end of the book, it's basically said that Snow's father and the dean of the school, who really despises Snow, invented the idea of the Hunger Games in high school as part of a project, like just as a fun like idea on how to control the districts without too much effort. And his friend basically Snow did the same as his father did in roping him into the assignment as well. And his father took the credit for it and ended up making it happen. He like proposed the idea to the capital of the Hunger Games, which is fine. Like that's a kind of a cool parallel between Snow and his father, I guess, but that still doesn't give any further information as to the Hunger Games. It just makes it seem much more flimsy idea because it was written by high schoolers. It seems like someone else in the capital would have thought of that. Not to say young people aren't smart, but just that it could have been more fleshed out, and I'm sure someone else would have had to contribute to the idea rather than just the two boys. So he ends up poisoning the dean and killing him, because he bullied him in school. But he doesn't also get rid of the crazy doctor lady who basically terrifies him throughout this book and makes up all these horrible ideas for mutts and for the games and all that. If that's a political move, that doesn't seem like a great idea, because she already knows that he's a liar, and she might try and use that against him in further political maneuvers that he wants to do. So I don't understand why he wouldn't just get rid of her. He literally has no reason to hate everyone and to be so awful to the districts. Especially because he was exposed to how poor the District 12 was. He should have been able to understand that they do what they do to survive, and they live such a horrible life. They'll do anything to rebel against the capital. He failed to see that completely, and I find that odd, especially because he spent time with Lucy and her friends, and he knows the situation there, but he just chose to ignore it and instead oppress the districts more for not really any reason. So overall, I thought this was a slightly entertaining but very boring and very unnecessary prequel. It didn't really do anything for me, so I would prefer to just read the main three, and this one's pretty unnecessary. You could probably sum it up in like 4 sentences. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. I'm sorry this was so long. If you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.